I'm really happy to introduce our next speaker, Hadi Hariri. He's from the JetBrains team. You probably see his prolific tweeting, and if you're not following him on Twitter, I suggest that you do so. He's a lot of fun. Says a lot of weird stuff. A little about Hadi is that his current first world problem is slow internet speeds because he lives in Spain. So without further ado, let's everyone stand up, give Hadi a big round of applause, get that energy going. Woo! Hadi!
Thank you, Oliver. Thank you. That's I live in Spain. I heard someone say, boo. If only the biggest problem in Spain was my internet connection, then things would be a happy place to live. But no, not for me. So how are you doing? That's it? That's the level of excitement I'm going to get today? Very what? Very okay. Very okay. How are you doing? I'm very okay, thank you very much. Great. Well, I'm very okay too, so we can be very okay together. Right, so I am going to give you a talk on IntelliJ tips and tricks. How many of you here use IntelliJ? Right, so everything I show you is, so the rest of you use Eclipse? No? Vim? Eclipse? Raise your hands if you're using Eclipse. Okay, now, as punishment, you keep them up. How many of you using NetBeans? There's always a couple. Oh. Right, okay. So, for those of you that are using IntelliJ, awesome. All of the tips and tricks that I apply, that I show you here, will be of use to you. For those of you using Eclipse, you wish they would be of use to you. My objective is that everyone that walks out of here ends up using Eclipse. I mean IntelliJ. Yeah. If I get more people using Eclipse than IntelliJ, then kind of I should be doing something else, like fixing internet connections in Spain. Okay, so having said that, let's start. I'm going to go through different areas of IntelliJ, so I'm going to show you some stuff in terms of navigation. I'll show you some stuff in terms of code analysis, and then how to be a hipster in IntelliJ. That is humanly possible. And we'll see different things. Hopefully, you'll enjoy it. If you don't, please do feel free to fall asleep at any time. But I will look you up, okay? I hold no mercy. Right. I'm using a Mac with layout, which you can see down here. So when I press a keyboard binding, you will be able to see it at the bottom of the screen, unless when I press it and you don't see it at the bottom of the screen. Normally you will. So I've just pressed Command-O on Windows layout because I'm using the Mac OS X 10. How many Mac OS users here? Right, how many Windows? The rest of you are Linux. Linux, okay. I'm not going to talk about font rendering, because that's an issue in Linux. We'll just pretend it didn't exist. So when I do Control-O, basically, if you're using the IntelliJ default keyboard map, every time I say O, you think N, right? And that only works for one keyboard shortcut. But when I say O, you think N, okay? And without further ado, let's start. One other thing before I do start. God, I do talk a lot, don't I? Anyway, one other thing. My objective here is for you to walk away knowing 3 new things. That's it, right? As long as you pick up 3 new things, I'm happy. I don't set the bar too high for myself, right? It's not, so, don't worry about that. It's kind of like, how many of you have heard of a language called Kotlin? Right. How many of you use it? probably the same people that use Eclipse. So one of the goals of Kotlin is to be more concise than Java. And this is the same as me. You know, we're not setting the bar very high because it's really, really easy to be more concise than Java, isn't it? Okay, having said that, let's start. Command O. Do you know what Command O does? Command O goes to a type. So I can write, for example, operation timeout, and that will take me to an operation timeout. That's kind of a little bit boring, okay? Of course, you can do, for example, things like OTI, and that also takes you with camel case to that actual type or thing that you're looking for, okay? Now, if I were to do ORC, for instance, ORC, and that shows me operation ref count, 40, what does that do? It goes to line 40 of ORC. Isn't that brilliant? By the way, here's a little thing. When you're using an IDE, switch off your mouse. Unplug it. Do not use a mouse. I recommend people not to use a mouse. IntelliJ was built from the ground up with a mouse. I mean, without a mouse. Well, it was built with a mouse, but it was... Right. Did I tell you that I took a flight at 1 a.m. and I landed here at 8 a.m. and I haven't slept? Okay, never mind. It was designed to be used without a mouse. As you can see, I don't have a mouse anywhere plugged in. The touchpad does not count because I'm doing a demo. I'm allowed to use a touchpad. You're not allowed to. Okay, so Alt Command O, for example, goes to a symbol. So Command O goes to a specific a type, and then Shift Command O will go to a specific file. So if I do, for example, scheduler here, it will take me to the scheduler file, right? And I could do things, for example, just put a dash, and I'll go to RxJava. Is Eric in the crowd? Is he here? No? Here's me showing him Rx, and he doesn't come? Oh, man. Anyway, let me change that. I'll change it back to a Ruby project. Okay, so Alt Command O, what that does, that takes me to an actual symbol. So for example, if I write some float, what that's going to happen is show me all of the symbols in some float. Now, we are developers, so we like to create the same thing 100 times over and over again and give it the same name. Normally, it's something ending with services, right? So when we're looking for something, if we type services or some float, a whole bunch of things are going to show up. And what you can do is you can use kind of namespace filtering. So basically what happens is that I want to go to this guy over here, which is operation sum test. So I could do OST and then some float, and that will limit me down to that namespace and to that symbol. So it's a much faster way to find things in IntelliJ. You can do this same thing in Eclipse. Can you? Probably not. Oh well. Hey, there's a reason to switch to IntelliJ. I am not trying to sell here, I promise you. I do not make any commission apart from 10% off of every sale of IntelliJ license. So another thing that we added, like you've got all of these shortcuts. So you've got Command O, you've got Shift Command O, you've got Alt Command O, and we basically added another one, which is double shift, which is search everywhere, right? And what search everywhere does, it basically really does search everywhere. So if I write operation sum float, it will find everything that is sum float, right? The problem is that this is a little bit slower because it searches everywhere. But what it's very useful for is things like, for instance, when I want to look for some settings or something like that. So for instance, if I say, I want to look for Kotlin, it will show me everything that is related to Kotlin, even, for instance, in settings. And it will open up that dialog box directly. Okay, so that's very useful to look for stuff. Then I can do things like, for example, Command 7. And that doesn't do anything. So I was just making sure that you're watching. Right, so here I have the Project Explorer, Command 1, I go to a Project Explorer, and on basically all of the different windows and toolbars that IntelliJ has, you can actually start to type stuff and look for things as well. So for example, if I write Synchronized Observer here, SO, it will also point that down to me, okay? And that's going to a specific type in the project structure. If I'm in a class in itself, I can press Command F12 and get this nice little pop-up that appears that allows me to navigate to different things. So for example, if I write Safe Subscriber, that will take me directly to Safe Subscriber. Now, Command F12, who knows what will happen if I write CTOR or new? And then there was silence. That will take me to the constructor of the class, right? So if you write CTOR, so if I write here, for example, CTOR, It doesn't, but it's actually, it would be a very good feature, right, if it had that. So I've logged that feature. Those of you that use IntelliJ, vote for it. Those of you that use Eclipse, vote for it. You have nothing to lose anyway. So, okay, now look at my screen, okay? This is not the kind of screen that you want to have. And I'll tell you why you don't want to have this thing. First of all, you've got this little horrible thing up here. This is called the navigation bar. Who uses that? Right, don't, stop, switch it off. You go to View, and you get rid of the navigation bar, okay? You don't need that. You don't need that at all. If you ever want it, what you do is you just invoke it, right? You press a keyboard combination and you invoke it. And on of these, you can also search for things. So if I go, for instance, to code, I can start to look here. And then there's a command in IntelliJ, which is the only way you should ever create files, which is Command N, which what that does is bring up the contextual menu for you to create new elements. And that is contextual to anywhere you are. So right now, if I'm navigating on the navigation bar in this folder, and I press Command N and select something, it will create it for me exactly in that folder, okay? So switch off the navigation bar, you really don't need it. Command E goes to the recent files. This is something that you should always be using, and I'll tell you, do not use tabs, right? You see these things at the top here? These are stupid, right? Tabs are stupid. I hate it when people come and say, can you put numbers on tabs? No. Why do you want numbers? So that I can look them up. Why do you want to look them up? Because I've got 600 tabs open and I don't know which one to go to. Well, why do you have 600 tabs open? Switch off tabs. I only switched on tabs to show you how to switch off tabs. So you go to tabs, and you go to tabs and editor tabs. And the best thing you can do for your life is set none, okay? Now, when you switch off tabs, you say, how do I get to a file? You press Command E, and it goes to the recent file you've been. Oh, but what about if I've been to 22 files? Okay, if you want to go to the recent edited file, you press Shift Command E, and it shows you the recent edited files, right? So get rid of tabs. In fact, the only side effect of getting rid of tabs and using Command E is that you might break your E key. This is why, and I'm not kidding you, this is why I have an external keyboard, okay? My E key on my MacBook is broken, and they want 300 euros to repair it. You gotta love Apple. Apple is great. Okay. So let me go over to something over here. So Control Tab, you can quickly also get the switcher up, and you can switch around to different windows, etc. And let me go and find something here. So, for instance, Operation Timeout. And on Operation Timeout, you know, here I have a bunch of things. And for instance, let's navigate all the way up here, and let's go to serial subscription. Now, what I see here is that what people do is, a lot of times, if they want to look for something, first of all, never use find and replace or search for something using text. That's just, you know, so 80s. But if you want to look for example, for the declaration of this, what you can do is press Control B, right? Press Control B. What that will do is take you to the declaration, and then you can actually press Command left square brackets or Command right square brackets to move back and forth from where you are as well. So not only Command E. But often I don't want to actually look at that. I don't want to navigate away from where I am. If I want to see the kind of like the declaration in line, I can press Command Y, and that overlays a pop-up window for me that provides me with that insight into that type, right? And then from there, I can go, for example, to the subscription, and then from there, you can now navigate back just the same way that I went to the declaration. I can navigate to, for example, all of the different implementations, which Alt-Command B. So these things are things that you should be continuously using in IntelliJ, navigating back and forth instead of using the mouse and silly things like that, okay? Notice another thing here that you have is, as I, for example, click this guy over here, nothing happens. So if I click her, nothing happens. Now, there's an option up here that says auto scroll to source and auto scroll from source. If you switch those on, what will happen is basically that as soon as I click on something, it will scroll to it, right? Whereas if you have this off, it's not going to scroll to it. So you need to actually hit the Enter key to see that. And once you hit the enter key, the focus isn't on the editor. To get the focus on the editor, you either press F4 or you can press escape, right? What's the difference between F4 and escape? Well, then if you choose enter, you hit escape to get to it. If you just want to do that in one go, you go to the file and press F4, and that will directly take you to that editing file, okay? Again, stop using that damn stupid silly mouse. Okay, so here's another one, which is something that people use as well, but they don't always do it right. If I want to go to highlight usages, what I do is I say highlight usages. It shows me the usages in the actual project. If you go to a try-catch, or let me find a throw. Here we go. Where is there a throw? Throw. Here we go. What happens if I do, for example, unsubscribe here and I do highlight usages? So I press Shift Command F7 and I say highlight usages. It shows me highlight usages of that symbol. If you do it on a throw, what it's going to do is show you every place in the method where an exception is thrown. If you do it on the return statement, it'll show you everywhere in the method where the method has been exited. Okay? So now, how many of you, this is one of the things that we face a lot. So someone comes to IntelliJ, normally, and this is like from people that, here we go. So this is a screenshot on the website. And someone comes and says, normally it's, how many hipsters in the room? Hipsters. How many hipsters? Okay, who's wearing really tight pants? Normally of a mustard color. Right, so hipsters normally wear tight pants, normally mustard color. I got really nice hipster pants, but when I do this presentation, I don't wear my hipster pants. It just, you know, it's a contradictorial statement to my life. So what people come and they're like, this is horrible. Like, I have no workspace. That's why I hate IDEs, right? With VI, I've got this blank screen, and I can do whatever I want. I'm in the zone. I'm chilling. I'm writing my code, and you're giving me all of this crap, which I'm not interested in. Yes, damn right, we're giving you this crap. Switch it off. Shift Command F12 gets rid of all that crap in one keystroke, right? It just gets rid of that crap. And in fact, you see these little things here, you can get rid of those as well. There's a little button here that you click it. Now you've completely gotten rid of all the crap. You want it back? Shift Command F12. You want it away? Shift Command F12. Now, what happens if I want a window? Well, I can hover on this, select the window, or I can just press double command and see all of the different windows and brings the one I want out. Okay? So when you're coding, this is normally the way that I code, like that. I don't have any windows or anything else. If you want to take this one step further, and you want to get really in the zone, you can press Shift-Control-P, and what that will do is basically make it full screen and also make it presentation mode. So now I've got a canvas. I have absolutely, nothing else. There is nothing there that can distinguish between VI or Sublime and IntelliJ, right? Well, yes, there is. Should I say this is a decent editor? Ooh, no. No, that will take you basically, I love VI. That will take you basically to the full mode where you can basically just write code and not have to worry about a thing. Okay, now, let's do something else. How many of you actually like VI? Okay, if you go to plugins and you search for install JetBrains plugin, and you search for IDEA Vim, you now have VI inside IntelliJ. So now you get the best of both worlds. VI for text editing, and then IntelliJ for project and semantics, etc., etc. Just don't send us requests saying, I can't type or I can't exit, okay? Because people do that. They're like, I installed this plugin and nothing works anymore. It's called VI, right? You saw that tweet from, I think there's an account that I am developer. There's like, I've been with VI for 2 years because I still haven't figured out how to exit it. There's so many good VI jokes. I love VI. Okay, so you can get into the zone, do that with this. Here's, for example, another thing. Here's a question for you, because I know that you are completely falling asleep right now. How do I resize this toolbar? Who said with the mouse? Who said with the mouse? I said you don't use a mouse. Okay? So if you want to resize this toolbar, you continuously hover over until you find that little area where this little thingy appears, and then at some point you like, shit, let me open this again, and oh damn, and yeah. So it doesn't kind of work. You don't resize, right? You can actually do that with the keyboard. Watch this. This is very cool. So if I go to the project, are you ready for this? Is that nice? I'll do it until someone says, okay, that's good. Yeah. That's good, thank you, thank you. I was getting tired. Okay, so literally everything, absolutely everything in IntelliJ, you can do with keyboard, right? If you find something that you cannot do with a keyboard, don't tell me, because it will make my claims false, right? Now, talking about hipsters, let's go over to, I love hipsters, seriously, don't take me wrong. I think that, you know, they gave us a lot of good things in life. I was thinking JavaScript, but no, JavaScript isn't one of them. Actually, in that area, I do agree with Eric. I write JavaScript, I like JavaScript, but I think that we're destined to hell because of the ecosystem in the JavaScript and the churn. We're all going to die a really bad death. And it's going to be with generators. Right, so here's one thing that people like. They're like, oh, I don't like IntelliJ. Why? Because it doesn't have multi-cursors. Well, wrong. You don't use multi-cursors for refactoring. You use refactoring tools. However, there are times that you actually need to use multi-cursors. So what I can do is, this is one of those things that I told you that you need a mouse for, remember? Everything you can do with a mouse from multi-cursors. And what you have here is multi-cursors. So now I've just extended that to 3 lines, and I can write nice things, okay? Which is great. But what you can also do is, for example, select this G, select this G, select this G, and write something else. And of course, those G's don't have to be aligned. In fact, I can select all the G's, right? So if I do Control, Command G, I will select all of those words that I'm on everywhere, and also do multi-cursor support, okay? Is there anything that anybody has learned today? One person. Really? Okay, you're the smartest group ever. Really, you people are seriously smart. Really, I mean, I love you guys. Awesome. That's the only thing I can say to get out of like not looking like an absolute idiot. Okay, so I'll compliment you and I'll say that you're all brilliant. Okay. So, moving code around, again, you don't move code around copying and pasting. You come here. If I want to select code, how do I select code? Someone said to me once, they're like, watch this, I can select code without a mouse. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. So I said, show me. So he starts here and he's like, that's brilliant. Can you do it with one hand? He's like, let me try. Then I just said, well, that's it. Let's go drink whiskey. I mean, it's over for me. You actually don't select code like that in IntelliJ. You press Alt and up arrow. And what you do is you expand selection. So you see that it's expanding the selection. And then if you go down arrow, you shrink the selection. Now, initially, when we did this, the shortcut keyboard on Mac OS was Command W. And people would get pissed off because every time they would try and close something, it would select some text. So we changed it. But this is a little bit context sensitive. So for instance, if I'm on this method and I do select, first it selects the name of the method, then it selects the entire method, right? And then it's going to select the entire class. Okay? So that's the way that you select code. And then when you select code, when you want to move it, what you don't do is you don't cut and paste. Because normally what happens is that you cut something and you come up here and then you cut something instead of pasting it, and then you've lost your context. You've lost your clipboard, which actually you haven't. Press Shift, Command V, and you get all of the history of your clipboard, okay? So you'll never lose your clipboard. It's all always there. But the way that you actually move text is you just select it, and then you move it up and down, okay? See? I can just move things up and down. And I can move methods, I can move everything like that. So if I select a method, for instance, here, and then I can move this up and down, and I can make really twisted, horrible code, okay? Normally when you do this, the next thing that you do is you run the code reformat and clean up your code. And, you know, we allow you to make a mess of your code, and then we'll clean it up for you, right? It's kind of like what every parent's desire, right? I mean, every kid's desire. They'll make a mess, and the parents clean it up after them. Okay. So, some more things. And I screwed up some code. We have this thing in IntelliJ which is called live templates. How many of you use live templates? Which is basically code snippets. It allows you to create code very rapidly. So for instance, if I go to other over here, and I have PSMVM, you see that I have this little text over here. This is just a placeholder saying this is where I want the cursor to end. But there are other things. So for instance, if I come here, I have these expressions. And these are basically placeholders that you can define variables on. And you can define macros. So you say, when I create a new class, automatically give it the name of the file. Or when I create a new file, give it automatically the same name to the class, etc. So it allows you to do these things. A lot of people actually don't use macros, but they are there, and I can go here and let's go, for example, and create a new file, a Java file. Where are we? In source, editing. Let's go to editing, source, and I'll create a Java file. Oh no, not another one. I'll create a class, and now I'll say, for example, PSVM, and that expands the template for me. Okay? Now these templates are not only for selecting code, generating code, but they're also there for doing code surround. So for example, if I do something like, I don't know, array list of string, and then bada bing equals new array list of string. Oh, watch this. Watch this. This is very cool. Shift Command Enter. Do you know what that did? Let me show it to you again. This is really, really cool. Watch. Shift Command Enter. Anybody? What did it do? It inserted a semicolon. I mean, this is awesome. I have shown you how to insert a semicolon instead of using one key, 3 keys. And then you're sitting there so ungrateful, like, okay, big deal. Actually, that's a complete statement. It would be really stupid of me to say from now on use 3 keys instead of 1. What that does is, like, so I say, let's go down here, for instance, and say, if bada bing, and then I do Shift Command Enter, it will complete the statement for me, right? So it will know how to complete if statements, for loops, method names, properties, all of that stuff, okay? So I've got this guy here, and now I say, right, what I want to do is I'm going to select this. So I want to wrap this up in some live template. So this is what's called surround template. So I can press Alt-Command-U, Alt-Command-T, and then say, for instance, wrap this in a try-catch, okay? And you can define these surround templates to interact with you. So if you, for instance, if I want to define the actual exception, I can make this a placeholder, and then when I expand this, when I surround this code, I can actually type the type of exception that I want. And you can do this on everything. So for instance, if we go to emmet.html over here, let's say I've got a div here, and then I have some text. Now I can come here and say, let me surround this with another div, right? Now that's not what I normally would do because I want to do the whole div. So I can now do a surround with another div, okay? So you can use that in all of the different technologies that is supported. But talking about templates and generation, let me show you another good trick that you can do. If you want to, for example, put a bullet point, right? What you do is you write the UL and then you write the LI, right? And then what you can do is you can press Command D as many times as you need. And that will do, like in this case, 20 bullet points for me. That's good, right? Right? Nice trick. If anybody likes that, they need help. Basically, I showed you how to do a copy-paste. You don't do that. You use Emmet. How many of you use Emmet? UL, LI times, let me do 20, okay? So that's basically using the CSS selectors to generate HTML for you, okay? That's the way that you should be actually doing it in IntelliJ. Okay, now let's go back now to my little main, not my little main, another one, big Java here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and create a BUR, which is a buffer reader, and I'll let IntelliJ tell me what to do. And now if I do completion, which is something that a lot of people do, is they're basically saying, right, give me anything. And IntelliJ is saying, okay, you can create an instance of anything. But really, you shouldn't be using completion. What you should be using instead is smart completion, right? Not this one, but this one, which basically now IntelliJ says, you can only create an instance of these classes because you've declared the type buffer reader, therefore I will only do that. And then I can do, for example, a buffer reader new file reader, and then I'll say input.txt, and it's going to give me an error, and I'll hit Alt-Enter, and that adds the signature, etc. Now I can do, for instance, if I'll do reader, and reader, can it be null? Potentially. So you come here, and you're like, reader, whatever, read. And then you're like, oh, this can be null, so I'll go back, I'll delete it. It's like how my sister used to use a keyboard when she first got it. She would like make a mistake here, and then she would delete the entire sentence to get to there, fix that word, and then retype it. I love my sister. So you would do reader here, and then read if reader is not null, and then do something like that, okay? You don't do that. You type reader, and then you write not null, and it does postfix completion for you, okay? So that is actually a feature that if you press Control-J, you should get all of the, sorry, Command-J, you should get all of the different templates that you can use on an expression. And that postfix completion is a feature that we added to ReSharper, which is another tool we have, and then we ported it over to IntelliJ, and I think that Eclipse has now been inspired to add it as well, okay? But it's good. It's all there. Great. Any questions? No. Brilliant. Let's move on. Really, people. Really. Are you hungry? Are you normally this quiet? Oh, is it Estonian people? Oh, I know why. Now I explain it. Now you want to know why, don't you? Okay, so let me tell you a little secret. There are only one set of people that are quieter than, and I'm talking about technical conferences in my area, that are quieter than the Swedish. You know who they are? Not the Estonians, although you're pretty close up there. The Finnish. Someone was saying that with the Finnish, you have to actually check their pulse once in a while. Right? And then they look at you, and they're so dull, and they're so pissed off, and they're so angry, and you think that you're going to walk out, and they're going to just say, I hate this crap. You were absolute shit. You wasted my time. And they come out, and they're like, great session. So here's me hoping that you guys are somewhat similar to the Finnish. I mean, based on the proximity in territorial proximity, which absolutely has nothing to do with one another, but hey, here's me and my, I'll just say I'm from Spain. Okay? So, let's go over to unit testing. Okay. Actually, let me go ahead and show you something else. Where is my unit test? No, let's show. I'm gonna write some Java code. So factory, every Java code starts with a factory, right? And this is the perfect, this is when you know you've graduated in Java. You have a factory method to create factories, right? This is it. This is the as good as it gets in Java. Who likes Java? Okay, who would still use Java as their language of choice if they were paid $0 to use it? In essence, you really love the language, right? By chance, do you also like SharePoint? Okay, never mind. Well, as Eric says, Java's better than Ruby. Okay, so here, for example, you know that IntelliJ has a whole bunch of refactorings. I'm not going to go through any of them with you because they're all very boring and horrible. But if you press the Control-T button, which brings you up to refactor this, here what you have is basically all of the different refactorings possible. It's not context sensitive. I wish it would be, but it's not. So, but the bright side of it not being context sensitive is that you can pretty much see anything you want here on what you can refactor, and I recommend highly that you look at this before you actually do any manual refactoring, right? Don't do manual refactoring ever. It's the last resort, right? So, but what a lot of people don't know is that you don't need to, it is context sensitive in the sense of not having to select elements to refactor. So for instance, if I come here and I say introduce variable, right, it will automatically select the text and it will know what to introduce as variable, right? So now it's introduced the variable. What happens if I select an element and I press the exact same key combination? It gives me a different type of refactoring. So in this case, it says variable of type string and the name is of type costs, so I will do that for you. And of course, not the best way, but it will do different refactorings based on the context. But what is also important that you don't need to always select everything before you actually go and refactor it, okay? So let's go over and let me show you some tests here. I have a big mighty class, and I have a calculator test here. Now this is a very good one as well. So let's say that how many of you do TDD? Good. That basically, I'm assuming that everybody read the news 3 weeks ago from the creator of Ruby on Rails that TD is dead. So therefore, that is why you're not doing TDD today. Did you hear that TDD is dead? Yes, no? Okay, well, we should listen to him. TD is dead. So those that didn't get into it, hey, great on you. By the way, just in case you don't know me, pretty much everything I say is sarcasm. So I just don't end it with a sarcastic tag. So yes, anyway. Right, so let's say that I have a calculator, and I say calculator equals new calculator. And then I'll go ahead and I'll do long result equals calculator divide, right? And I'll say 10. 0. And now I come here, and then what I see a lot of people do is say, okay, I got to go back with my cursor like this, hit Alt-Enter, and then create the method, right? That's create from usage. Whether you do TDD or not, I'm betting a lot of you do create from usage. The problem is that there's no other way to do it. Well, you could actually raise your hands from the keyboards, go over to the mouse, click it, and then do that. But there is, in fact, a way. If you come here and you see that there's a keyboard shortcut here that says next highlight an error or previous highlighted error. So what happens if I press Shift F2? It goes to divide. If I press Shift F2, it goes to the error. Now, normally the behavior is not that. The behavior is this. I'm here and I press Shift F2, it goes to the error. Shift F2, it goes to the error. Normally, let me just rewind. Normally, the behavior isn't that. I press Shift F2, it goes to the error. Shift F2, it goes to a hint. Shift F2, it goes to another hint. It goes to a warning, etc. And that's not what you want a lot of times. So what you want is, if you're doing TDD and create from usage, you know that the thing that it's going to go to is always going to be the error. So what you can do is come here, right-click this, and say, go to high priority problems only, which is error. And this is what we call an example of user experience fail. Because first of all, why the hell would you put an option on a right-click in a tiny little square box there? Second of all, why would you call it high priority problems only, and then here call it highlighted error? And third of all, why would you have this behavior go to any problem where you've called it error? Okay, we screwed up, we'll fix it. But hey, it makes for a great hidden tip, right? Tweet will come out from some Eclipse user. Ha, IntelliJ, they fail at user experience. Okay, so how many of you do Java 8? Java 7? Java 6? Java 4? Who does Java 4? No, seriously, put up your hand. Don't be afraid. Okay, I'll tell you what. Do you do it by choice? Okay, so you're forced to do it. Okay, are you an Eclipse user or an IntelliJ user? Eclipse. Here's what. Because of your suffering of using Java 4, I'll give you a free IntelliJ license. Okay? Now, I mean that. Come and ping me afterwards. I'm Michael Hunger at Neo4j. Let me ask that question again. How many of you use Java 4? I love Estonians. They're very honest. Is this being recorded? So I won't make a joke about Spain. I can joke about Spain because I'm Spanish. Yes. Okay. I'll try and stay away from politics. Yeah. And I won't say that it's the country that's basically taking down Europe. No, I won't say that. Right, sorter. Over here, completion with sorter. If I press completion, I get nothing. Oh, ooh, I got the Internet of Things. I love Internet of Things. It's the next big thing, right? The Internet of Things. If you write sort, what happens is that you don't get anything, right? However, if you press completion again, what you get is access to the static methods, right, that are available. So it imports those static methods for you automatically. But we were talking about Java 8. Why was I talking about Java 8? Here's why. This is historical coding. This is how you should not be writing code anymore, right? What you want to do is you want to take that and you want to hit Alt-Enter and you want to make it Java 8 lambdas and streams. It's beautiful, right? So with one click, you can do that. Come here, hit Alt-Enter, and that will repeat it to replace for each. So there you go. If you are using IntelliJ 13, you can now say that I know functional programming, okay? And I know Java 8. It's called Alt-Enter. Right, which is good thing, because then tomorrow you will be able to get a job writing Reactful microservices with RESTful endpoints. That is the next big thing, and it's connected to the Internet of Things, backed with a lot of big data. Don't you just love our industry? We keep coming up with crappy buzzwords, and then we generate courses and trainings and tools around them, and then just, it keeps everyone in business, right? Anyway, so any questions? Good, great, I love it. So Alt F12, and we're finishing soon. You get, this is an IDE, so you basically have everything that you could ever think of under the sun and the kitchen sink. So you have here a terminal. If you're doing any, talking about RESTful and buzzwords, if you're doing any RESTful development, you have a RESTful client that basically allows you to do get, put, post, delete, head, options, etc. You have that, and you can make requests to that. You can set your cookies, see your response, send your response headers, change the actual contents, send body requests, etc. One of the things that I've always been reluctant to using inside an IDE has been version control integration, right? because all of my past experiences have absolutely nothing to do with Visual Studio, but yes, they did have everything to do with Visual Studio, proved to me that it wasn't the right choice. So I was a big Git command line user. I did give IntelliJ a chance, and I've stuck to it. I don't know if you are using it, but you do have full integration with source control, not only with Git, but all of the different source controls that we provide, which is Subversion, Git, Perforce, Visual Source Safe. Who uses Visual Source Safe? The best comment about Visual Source Safe that I've ever heard is that it's recommended for people, for teams of less than one person, which is brilliant. So you can do all the Git push, pull all of that here, and then you could do cherry picking and all of that stuff here. That's all available. And then there's even like little shortcut quick lists where you can like press Control V and get quick list operations. And why do I show you this quick list operation? Because it's very useful for you to do your own little quick list. You can actually come here and you can create your quick lists. So for example, I have this my list and I have this deployment one. And then what I can do, I've created a list of menu entries, and this is called My Lists. And then if I go to Key Map, right, this is, by the way, how you search for things in IntelliJ. You don't sit there going through every little icon. You just type what you're looking for. And if I write My Lists, you can see that I can now assign it, for instance, a shortcut. And I say Add Keyboard Shortcut. What is it? I've already done it. Alt, Shift, Command, L. Right, talk about playing Twister with your fingers. Alt, Shift, Command L, and you see that I have my little lists. Okay, so you can actually create your own little quick list with the operations that you use frequently, right? Last but not least, 3 things. First of all, if you are pair programming, or you've got someone on your team that uses Eclipse and you use IntelliJ, you can go to Settings and go to Key Map and select all of the different keyboard mappings, and then select it here and press OK or Apply. It's a pain. What you can do is press Control tilde, and this gives you what we call the quick switch scheme that allows you to change colors, change key maps. So you can come here and say Eclipse, and then in one click, that will basically change the keyboard mapping. So now it's Eclipse, and then I go back, and I say, for example, Hadi, which is my custom one, and it changes to Hadi, right? The good thing is that it makes pair programming much less friction, okay? And everything that I showed you, if you ever don't know what the keyboard binding is for something, press Shift Command A, and type the name of what you want. So for instance, I could write structural search, replace structurally, and that will provide me with that action, even if I don't know the keyboard shortcut, okay? And that, by the way, is a very good thing, because what this allows you to do is enhance IntelliJ's inspections with your own custom inspections. It searches for code patterns and optionally gives you a quick fix, which is the Alt-Enter, or globally allows you to replace things. Very, very powerful. Look that up, the structural search and replace, okay? And to finish off, if you go to Help, Productivity Guide, which is what I should have shown you and not have done this session to begin with, is you'll see all of the different hints and tips here, and it tells you how to use them. It shows you when you've used them, number of times you've used them, and what actually it does for you. Okay? And with that, we are done, and you can go to lunch. Thank you.